right, next, I want to introduce our last speaker who's batting cleanup for us, Joseph Gerson, who is a board member of Massachusetts Peace Action. He's also the president of the Campaign for Peace, Disarmament, and Common Security. He's vice president of the International Peace Bureau, and he's co-founder of the Committee for a Sane U.S.-China Policy. Oh, and he's also co-convener of the Peace and Planet International Network. So I don't know how he found the time to come and speak for us. But to put this all in a greater context for us, please give it up for Joseph Gerson.
Thank you, Brian, and just to appreciate what a great job Brian has done emceeing. I also just want to appreciate people kind of hanging in here for the bitter end. This is what the bitter end looks like. But just to appreciate your dedication and commitments. Friends, counting the dark money for so-called intelligence agencies, DOE nuclear weapons spending, the Pentagon's overseas contingencies / fund, and the Pentagon's core budget of more than $700 billion, the United States is spending essentially $1 trillion a year in preparations for war and genocide. Oh my God. I wanted to focus on the $2 trillion that are being spent for the new generation of nuclear weapons and their delivery systems. If they are ever used, they could end all life on Earth. I also wanted to speak about the hundreds of billions of dollars being spent to intimidate and prepare for war with China. That too could end with nuclear war. This is all national treasure that should be used to fund Biden's American Families Plan, the Green 21st Century Infrastructure Plan, and to stanch climate change and pandemics. But U.S. dollars, tax dollars, are going to continue to fund Israel's ethnic cleansing, colonial settler operations. That is what sparked the intensified Palestinian resistance to Israel's brutal military occupation and its apartheid rule. Now we have yet another deadly and massively unequal Israeli-Palestinian war. Hamas's missiles are not manna from heaven, but killing 20 Palestinians, many of them children, for every Israeli lost, and the massively disproportionate destruction and suffering in Gaza and the West Bank are obscene, and they probably constitute war crimes. We can celebrate, love the wind here. We can celebrate much of Obama's domestic agenda, but he has failed us and the people of Palestine and Israel with his refusal to insist on an end to the killing. How can our elected leaders universally condemn the repressions and human rights violations in China, but remain silent and actually fund those in West Bank, Gaza, and Jerusalem? How do we continue to support an apartheid state, a country with an advanced economy? Ending the carnage is moral responsibility, underscored by the images of the dead, the wounded, and the traumatized children. The fighting must stop now. The killing must stop now. Yes. 40 years ago, at the height of the Cold War, we had massive movements to halt the arms race and prevent nuclear war. The nuclear danger and U.S. threats to initiate nuclear war. Think here of our threats against Iraq, against Iran, and against North Korea just in the last years. Those threats, that danger didn't disappear. This is delightful. The U.S. is on track to spend an imperial fortune in preparations to inflict genocide and nuclear winter. It is deploying more usable nuclear weapons to Europe, and Chinese leaders have to plan for possible U.S. first strike attack. Nuclear weapons and missiles will not feed or house the needy, educate our children and grandchildren, save the planet, or prevent pandemics. Our call must be for no more money for the doomsday machine. Passage of the Markey-Liu and Warren Smith no first use bills, and fulfillment of our nuclear non-proliferation treaty obligation to engage in good faith negotiations for the complete elimination of nuclear weapons. Our movements must also oppose the new Cold War with China. Billions are being spent to contain and contest China's influence in the South China Sea. For China, the South China Sea is the equivalent of our Caribbean Sea. Military incidents and accidents resulting from provocative naval and air operations there, and also related to Taiwan, are happening on a weekly basis, and they can all too easily spin out of control into great power and potentially nuclear war. We can compete economically and technologically and culturally with China, but a new Cold War threatens us all, and the massive military spending to contain China simply diverts money that should be spent for our real security. Just to add as I conclude here, in addition to the local press coverage that we've gotten, one of my friends from Japan, from a publication called Akahata, covered most of the session today. He's going to report it. It will be in the Japanese press. And it will serve as a model for the Japanese movement about the importance of integrating our efforts to build a just society and to prevent war. So I think people should appreciate a contribution you've made to the international movement today by being here. And just then to close to say, let's tax the rich, let's starve the military-industrial complex, and let's move the money now!
Right on, Joseph. We were lucky to survive the first Cold War. We're not going to have a second.